One of the other great teams in the AFC is the Baltimore Ravens. And, I thought, Mike, after they beat the Chiefs, that would propel them to some big wins because they had a signature victory in 2019, and that propelled them to a run of some really big wins. Didn't happen. But you know what? They had the Monday night miracle. 22-3 was the score. They come back and win it. And now, what I thought was the game of the day. Closest match, Chargers. Oh, Chargers getting 3 points. Man, I like Chargers getting 3 points. I thought the Chargers would cover, but the Ravens would have a Justin Tucker field goal to win the thing late. Nope, 34-6. A splattering of the Chargers. Let's hear from John Harbaugh before we break down where the Ravens currently are, because he's feeling pretty good about where his team currently is.
Do you think this score today raised some eyebrows around the league?
Yeah, probably. Probably. It's okay with me. We like raising eyebrows, in a good way. So we're happy about that.
I'd say the Ravens' performance yesterday was more like the closing of a shower door on the heads of the LA Chargers. I mean, who saw this coming? Because the Chargers were playing as well as anyone. The Ravens playing as well as anyone. And, man, the Ravens, short week. After an overtime game on Monday night, they didn't have to travel, but still, they've had a couple of these Monday night games where they've had to put in extra work, and the Ravens looked ready to roll, and the Chargers simply did not, Mike.
So this was a game that, as a former lineman, even though on the defensive side, a lineman. This was a game I loved because this was controlled by the lines of scrimmage, both lines of scrimmage for Baltimore, their offensive line and their defensive line. They were in control of this entire game. Long drives on offense, stuffing defense as well. I mean, they just took it out of the Chargers, a team that is used to scoring a ton of points. Got 6. So they were out of their element. They were absolutely out of their element and out of their game plan, which is something they haven't been used to a lot this year. And all credit to Baltimore. Now, listen, the Chargers' defense is better against the pass, and Baltimore didn't pass for a lot of yards, though they didn't really have to. They ran for a lot of yards. And I thought it interesting what Justin Herbert said after the game, because this goes into game planning. This goes into everything that happens before all the fans watch the game on Sunday. This is everything that starts during the week, normally on Wednesday, when you put a game plan in of how you're going to attack your opponent. Justin Herbert said after the game, he said, "We saw looks out of them we have not seen on film." Because that's what you do as an opponent, is you study their tape. You study their tendencies. I get a game plan. Again, analytics have been around for a long time, just not now. I get the game plan. They like this formation on this down and distance, this part of the field, this time of the game. You get everything in a game plan. And you study that game plan. You break down that game plan. You break down film and watch how it associates with the game plan that you're studying. And then when the quarterback says, they were doing things we had never seen on film. They were disguising in a way we hadn't seen. They were disguising pressure one way, bringing pressure another way that we hadn't seen them do on film. So now all of a sudden, you normally are adjusting on the fly during every game. Every time you go back to the sideline, you're talking with coaches, you're talking about things going on, and you make some adjustments, and certainly at halftime. But I don't hear this a whole lot, where we kept seeing things that we had never seen on film from them before, and the disguising that they were doing. So they had their number. I mean, so credit to Baltimore on this one. They had their number, and the Chargers couldn't make the adjustments for it, and they just and as they just slowly rolled on them. And when you're physically dominated on both sides of the ball, there's nothing worse. You can lose a game that passes for a lot of yards and things like it, but you know when you're dominated on the lines of scrimmage. And that's what happened in this game. And that's what happened with the game plan as well, confusing Herbert and that offense and taking charge. So that, to me, was the epitome of a week's work. You know, when you finish that game and you win that game and you say, okay, everything we did worked. Well, this is the epitome of that. We put in a game plan that they hadn't seen on film, we hadn't had on film of some of the things we were doing, and it was successful. It worked to a T. It confused them, and we stomped them. I mean, you want to talk about the victory cigar coming out. Baltimore deserved one after this.
And that's an excellent point because the Chargers were completely throttled offensively, and the defense had been one of the big questions for the Ravens. Sims and I have been talking about that a lot this year. Even as Lamar Jackson begins to flourish as a passer, the offense has a lot of potential. The defense isn't what it used to be. Well, for yesterday it was, because a team that scored 47 against the Browns traveled cross country and was only able to muster 6. 26 yards rushing with Herbert leading the way. Austin Eckler, 6 carries for 7 yards. The passing under 200 yards. Total points, 6. And it helped that the Baltimore offense chewing it up on the ground. You've got a bunch of different guys getting it done, from Devontae Freeman to Lamar Jackson, Latavius Murray. Le'Veon Bell scored a touchdown. They were chipping in, and they had 187 rushing yards. They have started their streak all over again. It's at 1 of consecutive 100-yard rushing games for the Ravens, Mike.
Yeah, it really is. And, you mentioned time, and you think about this as time on the field. That defense for the Chargers, how long they were on the field. I mean, Baltimore had the ball for over 38 minutes of this game, and the Chargers just under 22. So that Charger defense was on the field for over 38 minutes. That can wear and tear you, especially when you're running the ball. There is nothing like getting run on over and over and over again. Again, that's what I talk about when you physically get beat down with 12-play drive, 10-play drives, going 80 yards, going 90 yards. That is a physical beatdown, and it's really, quite honestly, worse than about anything that can happen to you on the field as a football player, especially as a lineman. So, again, I say the domination by both both sides of the ball did well, but I look at the line. When you control that line of scrimmage, we always talk about it. We always throw it out there like a cliche. Well, don't turn the ball over and control the lines of scrimmage. Well, you know what? It's real. It's real, and it means something when you do it, and you saw that in Baltimore when they controlled both lines of scrimmage.
There was that weird quote last week that I guess traces to Buddy Ryan from Wink Martindale, the defensive coordinator of the Ravens, that Justin Herbert can throw a strawberry through a battleship. Well, he couldn't on Sunday. The battleship won over the strawberry on Sunday, and that defense was ready to go. And that's that. Mike, I think it's important to underscore this. That is a sign of good coaching, because it's easy to get complacent. Things are working. We're not changing things up. We're not planning for the full season. You've got to be thinking, and this is how you map out your schedule. When are we going to show this? How long are we going to hold that? A lot of this stuff isn't just being brought up on the fly. There's a master plan in place from week 1 through week 18 of how it's going to go. And for the postseason, we've seen plenty of good teams fall apart in the postseason because they just kept doing what was working for them in the regular season. Good coaches are ready to pick it apart and attack it.
So understand, again, what goes on behind as you pull the curtain back to tell us, you slammed yourself in the head with the shower door and you're, halfway concussed. Going into the meeting rooms all week and what you just talked about and what the Wink Martindales of the world do for my side of the ball, defensive side of the ball, in the game plan and how you approach a game plan, because the coaches, are always there before us and they're always there after us. They're the ones preparing these game plans. So what are you looking at? First, you're preparing a game plan against an offense that you normally see. And a lot of times, or there are times, I should say, you'll see a defense get beat on plays and you go, wow, that's some bad defensive plays or bad defensive players or bad defensive calls. When, if you watch the play, you'll see defenders are actually in the right spot, but they're just not making the plays. So the defense called is actually one that would work, but then you have to execute the play as well. So just because there are big plays sometimes doesn't mean the call was a bad call. A lot of times it's you have a player that's in position to make a tackle. You have a player that's in position to break up a pass. You have a player that you want to be in a one-on-one situation and they don't win the one-on-one situation. And then there are times when you flat out are getting beat and have to change that game plan on the fly, or you see a team, they do something well, we don't defense it well, what are we going to do during the week to change that? And then you see what happened this week is, okay, this is what we've shown, this is what this offensive does. Now this is what we're going to do instead. We're going to do a few things different that we haven't done before. That is the coaching part of this thing, where the players are buying in and all of a sudden you get the quarterback who's having a hell of a year for another team going, well, Boy, we saw stuff we just hadn't seen all year on film. That's just a coach sitting back in his seat, taking another puff on the cigar, saying, yeah, got you that time.
One last point before we take a break, too, because I want everyone to remember this week 1 next year. Not that anyone will, not that I will, but I always say you throw out week 1. Now, as it relates to the Ravens, the Cowboys, the Packers, and the Bills, all 4 lost week 1.
Yep.
Since then, they're 19-0 combined. And if the Bills beat the Titans tonight, they'll be 20-0. So throw out week 1 because we've got 4 elite teams that lost week 1, and they have figured it out since then, including the Ravens with 5 in a row. And they are possibly on the verge of becoming dominant like the Bills have been. Unfortunately, they don't play in the regular season. Maybe they'll cross paths again in the postseason.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.